What if the love story that defined an entire generation had one more chapter to tell? The trailer begins with the sound of soft piano keys, familiar yet haunting, echoing like a memory returning after years. On screen, the streets of Los Angeles shimmer at night, neon lights glowing, cars rushing by, the city alive just as it was 3 decades ago. A black limousine slowly pulls up to the curb outside a luxury boutique, and the camera lingers on its polished wheels. The shot cuts to the glowing lights of Beverly Hills, the heart of fashion and dreams. A deep, warm voiceover fills the silence, carrying the weight of nostalgia. 30 years ago, a love story captured the world's heart. As these words unfold, faded images appear. Julia Roberts as Vivian, her wide smile lighting up the screen. Richard Gere as Edward, looking both sharp and vulnerable in his suit. These aren't full clips, but fleeting, dreamlike flashes, as though the past is being remembered by the city itself. The music swells gently, not rushing, but building. We see the Rodeo Drive boutique, the place that once symbolized Vivian's transformation. But this time, the camera doesn't stay on the dresses. Instead, it tilts upward, showing the glow of the sign and the elegance of the night sky, reminding viewers that time has passed, but the memories remain. The voiceover continues, softer now, almost as if speaking to the audience personally. A chance encounter, a world apart, yet love found a way. As these words play, the screen shows a montage. Vivian's laughter, Edward leaning out of the limo, the two of them holding hands as if nothing else mattered. These are not scenes of dialogue, only fragments woven together like a dream being recalled after years of silence. Then a sudden pause. The music drops to silence and only the sound of footsteps is heard. The camera reveals the same Los Angeles street, but now it's empty, quiet as though frozen in time. A woman's silhouette appears, walking slowly under the glow of a street lamp. Her face is not revealed yet, but the hint of her walk, graceful yet strong, tells us who she is. Vivian. She is no longer the young dreamer, but the woman who lived, grew, and carried the memory of that love inside her. The voiceover breaks the silence again, this time deeper, steadier, but happily ever after isn't the end of the story. The camera cuts to a close-up of Edward's silhouette, now older, standing by a high-rise window. The city skyline stretches behind him, filled with lights. He does not speak, but the weight of his gaze tells everything. He remembers too. A small moment lingers on his hand, pressing against the glass, like a man reaching for something he can't quite touch. The music begins to rise once again, blending the nostalgic tones of the past with a modern orchestral build. Vivian steps closer to the light, her face finally revealed. Julia Roberts, older but still radiant, her smile lined with the passage of time, yet carrying the same spark. The screen fades to black, leaving only her eyes lingering in the viewer's memory. The voiceover whispers, softer now. Some love stories never truly end. The screen fades in bold white letters over black, Pretty Woman 2. The music swells, holding on the title before dissolving into silence. The sound of the piano fades, and a new melody rises, slower, deeper, with a bittersweet edge. The city of Los Angeles no longer sparkles in the carefree way it did 3 decades ago. The camera pans across tall skyscrapers, endless traffic, and a world that has grown sharper, faster, more demanding. This isn't the fairy tale playground of yesterday. It's the stage of reality, and reality has left its mark on Edward and Vivian. We see Edward first. The camera frames him from behind, standing in his office high above the city. His once jet-black hair now carries streaks of silver, and his posture, still strong, has a heaviness to it, the kind that comes from years of building empires and watching them change. He is a man who once believed money could buy control, but time has reminded him that power fades, and what remains is the echo of choices made long ago. He turns slightly, his reflection in the glass overlaying the city skyline, and for a moment he looks smaller than the world he once ruled. Cut to Vivian. The scene shifts to daylight, a complete contrast. She steps out of a boutique, but this time she is not the girl trying on dresses for the first time. She is confident, graceful, a woman who carries herself with the ease of someone who has built her own place in the world. Her hair catches the sun, her stride is firm, and people turn as she passes. Not because of glamour alone, but because she radiates self-assurance. She has a career now, one hinted at through flashes. a studio filled with sketches and fabric, her hands adjusting the final touches on a gown, her name whispered among young designers in Los Angeles. She is no longer someone shaped by others' opinions. She has become her own creation. The voiceover returns, resonant and steady. Time changes people, but memories never let go. The screen splits in two, Edward on one side, Vivian on the other. He's surrounded by boardrooms, contracts, and the cold silence of power. She's surrounded by colors, fabrics, and the warmth of people who admire her work. Their worlds look different, yet in the middle of that divide, something unseen connects them, a thread of longing that the years could not erase. The trailer slows. Edward receives an envelope, thick and elegant, slid across his desk by an assistant. He hesitates before opening it. Inside, we glimpse the words, Charity Gala, Beverly Hills Hotel. The camera lingers on his eyes, the faintest flicker of recognition sparking as if the invitation itself carries a whisper from the past. Cut again. Vivian in her workspace receives the same invitation. She reads it carefully, her hand pausing mid-gesture. For a moment, the confidence in her eyes dims, replaced by something softer. Uncertainty. She lays the invitation on her desk, her gaze drifting out the window, and for the first time we see her guard drop. The camera catches her expression, half hesitation, half hope. The music rises with slow strings, building toward something bigger, but not yet reaching it. The voiceover deepens, now more dramatic. Some roads are meant to cross again, even after years apart. The section closes with a visual echo of their past. Edward walks down a marble corridor in his suit, his footsteps echoing with weight. At the same time, Vivian walks through the streets of Beverly Hills, her heels tapping against the pavement. Neither knows the other is preparing for the same event, yet the editing makes it feel as though they are walking toward each other, step by step, the city itself pulling them back into the orbit they once shared. The music cuts suddenly. Silence. Then, a single whispered line, Vivian's voice faint, almost like a memory. I never thought I'd see him again. The screen fades to black. The screen lights up with the golden glow of chandeliers. The Beverly Hills Hotel, dressed in elegance, is alive with the hum of voices, laughter, and the clinking of champagne glasses. Guests arrive in glittering gowns and sharp tuxedos, their faces filled with the kind of confidence that comes from old money and new fame. The night is more than just a gala. It's a stage, one where forgotten dreams and unspoken truths wait in the shadows. The music softens, almost hesitant, as Edward enters. He walks with poise, his presence commanding, yet there's a distance in his eyes. He scans the room politely, nodding to old associates, but his expression betrays the truth. He is not here for business. He is searching, perhaps without realizing it, for something more than contracts and conversations. His polished shoes tap lightly on the marble floor, echoing like a countdown. Then the trailer shifts. The camera cuts to the grand entrance where Vivian arrives. She wears a gown that speaks of confidence and independence, designed with her own touch, timeless yet daring. The crowd notices her instantly, but the shot lingers on her hand, clutching her purse just a little too tightly. She exhales slowly, gathering herself, because beneath the confident exterior is the quiet storm of a woman stepping into a room where the past and present might collide. The voiceover returns, slow and deliberate. Fate has a way of bringing hearts back together, even when the years have tried to keep them apart. The music begins to swell, a slow crescendo. Vivian's gaze scans the room, drifting past the glitter, the noise, the blur of faces she doesn't know or doesn't care to. Then suddenly her eyes stop. The trailer slows into near silence, leaving only the sound of her breath. Across the room, Edward looks up at that exact moment. For the first time, their eyes lock. The world falls away. The sound of the gala fades into nothing, replaced by the low, powerful hum of strings. Edward freezes, the weight of recognition hitting him like a wave. Vivian's lips part slightly, but no words come. The camera cuts between them, his steady gaze, her guarded expression, the electric pull of two souls who know each other too well to pretend otherwise. For a fleeting moment, the trailer flashes back to their first meeting, the limo, the laughter, the streets of Beverly Hills. The flashes are quick, fragmented, as if their memories are being pulled from the shadows at the same time. Then we return to the present, where silence still holds them captive. Edward moves first. His steps are slow, careful, yet certain. He begins to cross the room, his eyes never leaving hers. Vivian stands still, her fingers tightening around her clutch. Each step he takes echoes like a drumbeat in the soundtrack. The closer he gets, the heavier the air becomes until he stops only a breath away. He opens his mouth slightly as if to speak, but the trailer doesn't let us hear his words. Instead, the voiceover cuts in heavy with anticipation. Some meetings are not by chance. They are destiny, reminding us what we tried to forget. The music swells dramatically. A montage bursts across the screen. Edward and Vivian standing side by side, neither speaking, but the silence louder than words. Vivian turning away, her eyes filled with conflict. Edward watching her leave the gala hall, a flicker of regret crossing his face. Their hands brushing as they accidentally pass each other, the contact lingering longer than it should. The montage slows again, focusing on Vivian outside the hotel, standing under the soft glow of streetlights. A single tear forms but never falls. She whispers under her breath, barely audible. Not again. Not like before. The trailer cuts to black. The music falls into silence, and then, suddenly, a heartbeat sound echoes deep and steady, setting the stage for the conflicts ahead. The music shifts. What was once soft and romantic now sharpens, darker like a storm forming behind the glow of the city lights. The screen shows Edward alone in his office, papers scattered across his desk, the night pressing against the glass behind him. His empire, once unshakable, trembles under whispers of betrayal, lawsuits, and competitors waiting for his fall. The camera lingers on his face, not the confident businessman of old, but a man weighed down by choices, mistakes, and the fear of losing everything he built. The voiceover rises, firm and commanding. Power can buy comfort, but it cannot silence the emptiness of regret. Cut to Vivian. She stands in her studio, her hands moving across sketches of gowns. The light from a single lamp casts shadows on the walls. Her team calls her name, eager for her approval, but her attention drifts to the invitation from the gala, still lying on her desk days later. She touches it lightly, her expression torn. The woman who once dreamed of being chosen now faces the question, is she ready to choose for herself? The trailer sharpens with sudden flashes. A younger woman, stylish and ambitious, enters Edward's office. She shakes his hand with a smile that hides something sharper, a symbol of temptation and betrayal waiting to happen. The camera cuts to Vivian watching from across the gala floor another night, her expression hardening as she sees Edward speaking to her. The room spins with music and laughter, but the shot isolates Vivian, her breath catching as doubts claw at her heart. The voiceover cuts in again, lower now, almost like a warning. Trust, once broken, is the hardest thing to mend. The screen darkens and the music slows to a haunting violin. Vivian's voice, faint but filled with pain, breaks through. I'm not the same woman I used to be. The camera shows her walking away down a quiet street, her gown trailing behind her, the city lights blurring into streaks of red and gold. Edward appears behind her at a distance, watching but not following, his hand hovering midair as though he wants to reach out but can't. A quick montage erupts. Arguments without words, only visuals. Edward slamming a file shut in frustration. Vivian standing by her studio window, tears threatening but never falling. The younger woman placing a hand on Edward's arm, the camera focusing on Vivian watching from afar. Edward raising his voice in a boardroom, his empire slipping through his fingers. The music builds to a pounding drumbeat, every strike matching the cuts. Then silence. A single scene lingers. Vivian and Edward sit across from each other at a quiet cafe. No luxury, no gala, no spotlight. Just them, stripped of the glitter that once defined their story. The silence between them is heavy, unspoken words pressing against the walls. Edward finally speaks, his voice low, steady, yet carrying the weight of desperation. I can't change the past, but I don't want to lose the only thing that ever mattered. Vivian looks at him, her eyes filled with both love and pain, and whispers, then show me. Don't tell me. The trailer cuts abruptly to black. The voiceover returns, powerful, resonant. Love that survives time must face its greatest test, truth. The music swells into a haunting crescendo, ready to break into the climactic montage. The storm of conflict fades. The pounding drums of tension dissolve into silence, replaced by a single, delicate piano note echoing into the dark. The screen glows softly with the warm lights of Beverly Hills streets at night, familiar yet different, as though the city itself has aged along with them. Neon reflections ripple across rain-damp sidewalks, and in the distance 2 figures walk alone, their paths slowly bending toward each other. The voiceover, gentle and steady, whispers, "Love does not disappear." It waits in the quiet, in the shadows, for the courage to rise again. The trailer cuts to Edward standing outside the hotel, his jacket resting over his arm, his tie loosened. He looks less like a businessman and more like a man stripped of his armor. For the first time, he seems fragile. His eyes search the streets, not for success, not for power, but for someone. For her. Cut to Vivian. She walks along the same street, her heels clicking against the pavement, the rhythm steady yet hesitant. The night air moves through her hair, her gown catching the glow of passing headlights. She slows, her breath visible in the cool air. And then, she sees him. The music rises, soft strings carrying the moment. Their eyes meet again, but this time it is not across a crowded room. It is close, personal, raw. They stand in silence, the city blurring behind them as though time itself has frozen to give them this one fragile space. The camera lingers on Vivian's face. Her eyes shine, but not with the innocence of the young dreamer she once was. These are the eyes of a woman who has lived, who has built herself, who has been broken and mended. Her voice trembles, quiet but firm. "I'm not the same woman you rescued all those years ago." Edward takes a step closer. His hand hovers near hers, but he does not touch. His voice is low, steady, carrying the weight of every year they spent apart. "And I'm not the same man. But I never stopped loving you." The music swells, strings, piano, a faint echo of the melody from the first film, reimagined with a modern, haunting beauty. A montage of intimate moments unfolds. Vivian laughing softly, her head tilted back, the glow of city lights reflecting in her eyes. Edward reaching for her hand at a cafe table, this time with no limo, no spectacle, just the quiet of 2 people daring to reconnect. Vivian pressing her forehead against a window in her studio, Edward's reflection faintly appearing behind her as he steps closer. A slow-motion shot of them dancing under chandeliers, but the crowd around them fades into shadows. They are the only 2 in the room. The voiceover returns, emotional now, almost breaking. 2 souls. 1 chance. A story reborn. The trailer slows again. Vivian and Edward stand on a quiet rooftop overlooking Los Angeles, the skyline glittering beneath them. The wind moves gently around them. Edward finally takes her hand, their fingers intertwining after years of distance. Vivian closes her eyes, a tear slipping free. And for the first time in the trailer, a faint smile appears. The music rises to its highest point, an orchestra and piano in unison, before cutting sharply into silence. On screen, the words appear in bold white letters. "Love returns." The screen fades into black. The soft piano fades and a sudden boom of drums shatters the silence. The screen bursts into a rapid montage, flashes of passion, heartbreak, and risk all colliding like lightning in a storm. Vivian spins in a crimson gown on the ballroom floor, her dress echoing the memory of the first film, but this time her expression is layered, strength, hesitation, and longing mixed in one. The music quickens, strings racing like a heartbeat. Cut to Edward, running through a crowded street, his suit jacket whipping behind him, desperation in his stride. For a fleeting instant it mirrors the limo moment from the original story, but more raw, more urgent. He isn't just chasing romance, he's chasing redemption. The montage erupts into split-second images. Edward and Vivian shouting at each other in a rain-soaked alley, their faces inches apart, pain and passion burning together. Vivian clutching her sketchbook to her chest, collapsing onto a chair in tears, then lifting her head with sudden determination. Edward tearing apart a contract in his office, the fragments scattering like the empire he's willing to abandon. A champagne glass shattering on marble, reflecting fractured lives. Vivian walking alone under neon lights only to stop as Edward's silhouette appears at the end of the street. The voiceover rises over the chaos, powerful, relentless. Love tested by time, choices sharpened by pain, and the courage to fight when everything is at risk. The music soars into a crashing crescendo, The orchestra joined by a reimagined echo of It Must Have Been Love, slowed and haunting, woven into the score like a ghost of memory. The montage continues, faster, louder, bolder, Vivian and Edward's hands almost touching, pulled apart at the last second, a heated kiss under pouring rain, electric and desperate. Vivian standing before a mirror, whispering to herself, "This time, I choose me." Edward on his knees in the quiet of his penthouse, eyes closed as though the weight of the world has finally crushed him. Vivian smiling softly in her studio as sunlight pours through the windows, a symbol of hope rising. The screen cuts to black. Silence. Then, one final scene. Vivian and Edward on a rooftop at dawn. The city spread out beneath them, painted in gold.